Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, it's the Darkest Timeline podcast, so you'll be hearing about what I was doing at the time this podcast was recorded. I'd like to say there's games, movies, and TV, but there really isn't in this one. If that's what you've tuned in for, I don't know if that's your thing, but if it's what you're here for, you might want to skip this one. There's talk about the cost of living crisis, the increased prices of prescriptions. What else? Electronics. Plugging stuff in. All that sort of stuff. Great stuff. Before we start, please do consider like, share, subscribe and comment. Drop any reviews you want to drop. And generally share this podcast around. Give it to your friends. They'll love it. Right, let's get going. Here we go. This is CookieCast, Darkest Timeline podcast. Hello. How you doing? You alright? Oh, I sound a bit gravelly. That may or may not come up shortly. How's your week been? You been alright? Good. Obviously if your answer was no, not really, then that whole bit doesn't really work, does it? I have a cable in the way. My spoon is too big. So, good news and bad news. Start with the bad news. I'm that kind of guy. Literally, almost nothing in the entertainment section of this podcast. I haven't written it down. But we could talk about it now. I've been having a bit of a funk. I had a difficult day at the weekend, and realised then that I'd not been doing certain things, not been playing games, not been watching sort of certain things, just been a bit out of sorts. Again, there is stuff further along. Anyway, let's start on the actual stuff that we're here to talk about. Did I mention last week about the situation with the doctors, where I'd had to order some inhalers? Well, I ended up in a doctor's. Short version long version short. My son had to go for his vaccinations. So I'm like, well, I'm in a doctor's. I could ask. So I asked the doctors, can you just tell me, has the prescription that I ordered been dispatched? To be informed, oh yes, your prescription was dispatched over a week ago. I'm like, cool. That means that the chemist didn't let me know that the prescription was there and I could have picked it up over a week ago. Super fun. So I think I went that day. I went to the chemist. Now then, I may or may not have spoken about this before. This may have come up before. There's a high chance. I used to go to a particular chemist and get prescriptions. And it had been that way for, I'm going to go out on a limb and say 20 years. Okay? Reason being was it was close to work. It used to be close to where I lived. Super central for, if you live one side of town, if you live the other side of town. It was convenient, especially when it was round the corner from where I lived or round the corner from where I worked. Admittedly, for 15 years, that's not been the case. And it's not even been that I think about a year, maybe, about a year ago, I moved where I collect prescriptions from to a local chemist. I was reluctant to do this, and there's a reason for that. And that reason is that I absolutely despise going into the local chemist. Do you want to know something that has got to be a true definition of irony? Throughout the local chemist, on the door, on the window, on the perspex protective screen at the counter, literally everywhere, there are signs that say something along the lines of, our staff are just trying to help. Nobody deserves the right to be to come to work to deal with abuse. We have the right to refuse service. Please don't be shouting and screaming at our staff. That kind of notice. I was talking to somebody the other day, and I was saying, I often feel like I should go into the chemist wearing a sign round my neck that says, customers don't deserve the right to be spoken to rudely, and it is your job to work in a chemist and serve those customers. So maybe some sort of professionalism, courtesy, any of the above would be nice. Customers are people too. Because the reason that I was reluctant to move my prescription to the local chemist is because they are awful in there. From top to tail, they are awful. They are the worst, and it's one of those situations which seems to be a common theme that since the pandemic, since the pandemic, certain situations, certain businesses, certain, I don't know what you'd call it, services have got worse, and they feel like it's a right. So before the pandemic, they were awful. Now, admittedly, I know what you're thinking. How would you know if you weren't at that chemist? Other family members are. So, can you collect a prescription while you're out? Do I have to? It's that kind of situation. So, I felt lucky that I didn't have to deal with them all the time. But they are awful. It's like you go in and you're like, hi, I'm just wondering real quick, could you cut one of your legs off? I've brought all the tools you'll need. It's just the physical act of sawing or cutting off of the leg. Could you do that? Do I have to? Yeah, it would really help me if you could cut your leg off. That would be awesome. It's one of those situations where it's borderline abusive. Like, there's never, ever, 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 ever been a time that I've been in that chemist that I haven't wanted to say to them, any chance you could not be as rude as you're being right now? They are aggressively rude. And I think that it's ironic that they've got all these signs up about how you're supposed to be nice to them, you're supposed to speak nicely to them, because they certainly will not be speaking nicely to you. And yes, I know what we're thinking right now is maybe it's just you. No, because obviously you go in there when there's other customers. I went in there at quarter to closing. Can you imagine what that situation was like? To then be informed that they couldn't get half of my prescription. Definitely could not get it. There was absolutely no way they were going to get it for me. They can't get it. They've tried to get it. There's no way that they can get half of my prescription. But they'll happily take the money from me for it, and they'll try and get it tomorrow. That was a conversation. That was an actual, almost word for word conversation. How much, you're asking? So in total, I walked away over the course of 2 days, because I've got nothing better to do than to go to the chemist. And let's not forget they'd had the prescription for over a week, as I was informed by the doctors. Yeah, apparently they'd not done anything with the prescription, so maybe if they'd have done something, they could have, I don't know, ordered the half they didn't have. It took me 2 days to get my prescription. I ended up with 3 inhalers. 2 of one of another. Super helpful, and by helpful I mean super unhelpful. Excuse the coffee thing. I'll get to that in a minute. Yeah, £19 something. Just short of £20. I do wonder at which point it's going to be a case of, I can't afford to live these days. With all of our cost of living crisis and all, when are we going to start looking at the cost of medication? I'm sure almost immediately. So I went back the next day because I had a text message from them saying your prescription is in. I'm like, is that the prescription you couldn't get hold of? Definitely weren't going to be able to get. Took you, 12 hours to sort out. But aggressively, it's abuse. I actually gear myself up to have to go and collect prescriptions, to the point that I actually considered changing my chemist back to the one I was at previously. I'd have to go massively out of my way to go to the chemist, but it's going to be a better situation all round. My favourite point was when they told me that they couldn't get the prescription. And did I want them to send it back so I could go somewhere else for it? So there's been some moving. Basically, barring some blinds, the work that I was having done at the house is basically complete. Unfortunately, what that meant was that then everything needed moving. It's been a challenge. There's a variety of things that needed doing. I needed to plane some doors. That went amazing, as I'm sure you can imagine. Additional flooring to put down in the gym. Then it was a case of moving everything to the games room, podcast studio, whatever you want to call it. It's been all right. Okay, it's been better than I thought it was going to be. I will admit to that. I don't want to use the word easier. I think we'll stick with better. I've made a huge mistake because I've filled that room now and then realised that I need to actually bring my weight bench back in. which is going to be loads of fun because it's, big, metal, cumbersome. Definitely want to be taking it through that room. So that's going to be a pain. And it's weird how I've managed to fill one room, yet the room I've taken all the stuff out is still kind of full. So there's going to be a lot of loft usage. But look out for future video podcasts. You might see me in a new location. I've got a couple of ideas for a couple of podcast-related items for that room. Just little funky things, although one of them's not very little. But we'll see about that. So I've been getting that done. Had help from, I was going to say one, but like most of my children in various different degrees. My eldest helped me massively with some cable management. So yeah, it's getting there. It's slow, it's steady, but as we know from the torch and the hare, slow and steady wins the race. Last week I was feeling rough like a dog. Hence the coffee type thing. I'm not talking about the drink. I'm talking like the cough situation I've got going on. Have a little water to wet the whistle. However, a super weird situation presented itself. I was feeling really rough. I was feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. No virus to speak of. Weird kind of like a little bit of a cough, a little bit of a tickle, as you can tell, but like no major cough, no major blocked nose, none of that sort of stuff. Body just ached and ached. Just felt crap. Now, in any normal given situation, the thought of doing exercise in a situation like that, where you feel poorly sick or you feel rubbish or whatever, the thought of doing exercise is like, I'm good, thanks. Long time ago, I heard not everybody's favourite podcaster / comedian / MMA commentator, Joe Rogan, talking about feeling unwell and then doing a workout and feeling much better. And I'm the kind of guy who's like, go out for the run, go to the gym, step on the treadmill, do whatever it is that's your thing. If you get so far and you physically can't complete that, you physically can't, it's not like I can't be arsed, it's like I physically can't lift this weight, I physically can't run, physically can't do any of these things, I can barely walk, then A, it's better that you tried, and B, you might feel slightly better than if you didn't. So that's the mindset I used. I was like, I'll go out and try and do this. So here's the weird thing. The weird thing is feeling rubbish, feeling like I've been hit by a truck. Body aches. I got this insane, like last night, I got this insane ache in my left shoulder. And it was going down into my arm. I had earache for an entire day. All sorts of stuff like this. The only thing that seemed to make me feel better was exercise. I cannot explain this. I have no idea how I would even go about explaining this. If I went for a run, I felt better. And then, between then and, an hour or so afterwards, I would progressively feel worse. Lucky for me, I'm never too far away from an exercise. So next thing, I'm in the gym. On the treadmill, getting that warm-up in, getting those steps in. Instantly feel better. Start lifting weights, and it's that whole, okay, I don't feel great. I don't feel very well. I feel weak. I feel, I don't feel capable to do this. I'll just see, maybe when you're trying to do a set of 12, maybe it's going to be a set of 10. Maybe it's going to be a set of 8. Maybe it's going to be a 6. Who knows? Get ready to rock and roll. Here we go. Wow. This feels light. Feels doable. Feels like I've put the wrong weight on. Do a set. Double check the setup. Is it the right bar? Is it the right weight? Have I got? Am I delirious? Have I got the wrong weight completely? Nope. That's strange. That's odd. So do a workout, walk away. Oh my god, I feel good. I feel great. I feel brilliant. A little bit of time passes. Oh man, I feel rubbish. I do not feel well. Then it's treadmill o'clock. Go through. Can barely drag my old man bones to the treadmill. Get on the treadmill. Feel fine. Feel great. It was the weirdest thing. This went on for an entire week. A whole week of this. I feel crap. I feel like I'm dying. I feel like, oh no, I'm poorly. I best go and do some exercise and feel great for it. It was so weird. So weird. I have never experienced anything like that. Obviously, not knocking it. We're still managing to get all of my workouts running and whatever in. So I'm not knocking it. But that's weird. We've got to agree here that that's weird. What I don't know how to explain it, I'm afraid. Something that is super exciting. Is I have done my first of 2 this year fantasy football drafts. And I ain't talking soccer, kids. I'm talking NFL football. At time of recording, we are 3/4 days away from the first NFL game of the season. Now I know what you're thinking. Hey, I did not tune in to the NFL podcast. I tuned in to listen to you talk nonsense. You've got your own NFL podcast to talk about that stuff. Talk about that stuff over there. If you're one of the listeners that didn't know that, there's going to be an NFL podcast that starts, I don't know, in about, a couple of days. Yes, there is an NFL podcast. At this point in time, it's called the Laces Out podcast. If you didn't know about it, now you do. It's me, my co-host, Paul Williams. We talk NFL. We have guests. It's usually whoever we're playing that week in fantasy. Fantastic. It's great. It's a good, fun little podcast. We're going to play some games this season. I'm going to try at least. Paul doesn't know that yet, but doing that first fantasy draft, getting those players in that lineup. Oof! I tell you, it's like starting a countdown. It's like starting a clock. It's like I got up. Was it today? Or was it yesterday? One of those days. It was either today or yesterday. And I went outside to let the dog out. And I was like, oof, little brisk out here. Admittedly, I got in the car this afternoon and it said it was 28 degrees. But that first kind of, it's not hot as balls first thing in the morning. There's dew on the grass. It's that almost like a chill in the air. And it's just that, No, I know. There is something that happens at the end of the year, sometime in December, that you could be thinking I'm talking about, but no, I'm not. I'm talking about autumn. I'm talking about getting those jumpers out. Obviously, cost of living crisis, we're going to be looking at a couple more jumpers this year. I actually saw a video today where somebody was saying, just put another layer on. That was on television, on TV, ladies and gents. But We're about to enter my favourite season. I'm an autumn guy. My eldest just randomly fired off that her favourite season is autumn. I was like, apple doesn't fall far from the tree. It's my favourite season because, like I always used to say to people, you can get your coat and your sunglasses on. If that's not a perfect combination, I don't know what is. I'm not going to lie. Once I've got the shorts on, I enjoy shorts. But jeans is where it's at, isn't it? Come on, let's be real. It's all about the jeans. So yeah, it is that thing that there are aspects that during the NFL season there will be things that will happen. Halloween, bonfire night, that thing we don't talk about at this point in time of the year. New year, new me. But getting that draft done, it's like saying hello to the dark night. And I know not everybody's cup of tea. Also, not my cup of tea. I've already been complaining about putting the lights on. Cost of living crisis. But I do like certain aspects of this time of year, or the time of year we're going into. Like I said, it was 28 degrees today. I mentioned earlier, I feel strange that I didn't do these two things together, but I mentioned earlier about moving the rooms around. One of the big pieces. This is one of those situations where I'm now going to try to explain something that is part of me that I think is only a me thing. Obviously, I appreciate definitely isn't, but I don't know who I would talk to about this. So I'm going to talk to you guys about it. One of the items, which is multiple items, is the entertainment unit. Now, I am not going to brag, but I'm going to tell you what setup I've got. So, it's a big TV. Let's get that one straight out of the way. It's 60 inches. Again, I'm not bragging, I'm just telling you. 60 inches of glorious 4K deliciousness. I have a TV unit, PS5, an Xbox One, because I've not moved up to the next Xbox, because honestly I don't see the reason why. And then I've got this whole system. I've got 5.1 surround sound. I've got a Blu-ray player and a 4K Blu-ray player. Now, I know you're thinking, what? And you'd be right to think that. But wait, there's method in the madness. The surround sound system runs through the Blu-ray player. And only the Blu-ray player. It's one of those older systems that has like the little wires that plug in. I don't want to give up the surround sound system, so I can't give up the Blu-ray player. The 4K Blu-ray player, now it's getting complicated, was technically free with the TV. There you go. That's basically it. Unplugging and plugging this whole system back in takes a really long time. It takes, for me personally, a massive amount of mental capacity because it is one giant puzzle. Think Rubik's Cube with Sudoku, a crossword, and chess all rolled into one. Yeah, it could always be plug and play, but it isn't. Once you add optical cables into the mix, I've got an optical splitter. Yeah, I was in the process of unplugging everything and found that there was a port on the side of my TV box. My TV has a box that plugs into it that all other cables plug into. Kind of cool, kind of weird at the same time. Yeah, on the side of that there was an optical port which I could have been using all this time to run all optical stuff through. It was then, when I plugged everything in, that I found that I don't actually need to use optical at all. That was also fun. But I had to... because I've got a tiny little brain, I had to sit down for... over the space of doing this, it was probably a couple of hours. And it's like... has anybody seen that scene in The Hangover where Zach Galifianakis's character's counting cards, but above his head is all the like mathematical equations going on? It's like that. I'm sitting there, it's like, I've put the PS5 in like that, and I've put a HDMI in there, and then if I run the optical cable off the back of that, then that can go in the splitter. The splitter goes into that one, and then I run that one off that one into the other one. I can do exactly the same with the Xbox, but when we get down to the Blu-ray players, we've got to make sure that one's plugged into the other, and then everything else is plugged into that. Need to make sure that all of the speakers are working, so I'm going to have to do a sound test. What's best to do the sound test with? I need something meaty. Which way am I going to point the subwoofer? Does it matter which way you point a subwoofer, or is it just as long as it's there, it's good? Is it directional? Speaking of direction, I need to make sure those speakers are pointing just right. I'm just going to watch a quick YouTube video to make sure that I've got the right idea for the setup. Okay, so according to the YouTube video, it does need to be like a very central kind of thing. I can't get that one quite central, but I'm working on the principle that if it is behind... that's what's going on in my head. Sometimes it spews out of my mouth as well, like I just did there. And it's constant. And there's a part of me that absolutely loves it. There is a part of me that is like, this is the tits. This is, if I could do this for a job, this would be amazing. There is the part of me that absolutely hates it. The bit that feels like my head's going to explode. The bit that listens to the part of my brain that says, if I had this as a job, it would be amazing, and wants to kill that part and goes, are you actually insane? This would be the word. This is the definition of hell. Don't say ridiculous things. And then there's that slither down the middle of the brain that goes, listen, gentlemen, whichever way you slice it, it needs doing. It's a job that needs doing so that we can play 60-inch TV, Blu-ray, computer games with ridiculous surround sound. So let's just get it done. And that's the part of me that gets me up off the sofa and go into a world of cables. I hate cables. I hate cables. I even, because of a cabling situation, I even took the time to look up, hey, maybe it's time to upgrade the surround sound system. I'm sure in this day and age there's such a thing as wireless surround sound system. Do you know something? In this day and age, there isn't such a thing as wireless surround sound system. As time went on, I realised there's probably a delay. There's probably a slight delay in the sort of like sound transference. But I spent 45 minutes looking for wireless surround sound systems to find out that there basically isn't any. That was fun. Yeah, it's a weird little game. I have to play it once every now and then. It keeps me out of trouble. Sometimes gets me into trouble. But ultimately, for me, it's all worth it in the end. And you know something? The reason I added the for me in there is because nobody else in my house cares. My eldest was mildly impressed. My eldest did request to watch a movie in there. That says something to me. For everyone else, it's too loud. Can there be such a thing? Yes is the answer, because I hurt my ears whilst doing a test at the weekend. So, weekend of everybody this weekend. All children, all animals, all... Everybody. Everybody was here. There was a problem, though. Last weekend was quite expensive. I'd had one of those weekends where I was a bit like, screw the cost. Let's just have fun. Unfortunately, screw the cost, let's just have fun is a recipe for disaster. And the recipe for disaster is I spend far too much money way too early in the month. And then when I wake up, as it was like Tuesday morning and check the bank, I'm like, oh no. Buying films digitally, it's a dangerous trap to get in. And things like days out or, going out, that sort of stuff. So I'm like, okay, probably need a bit of a quieter weekend this weekend. So I'm like, hey guys, I'm going to have a quiet one. Middle daughter wasn't feeling very well. So she was like, yeah, that's fine. I'll just chill out at home. My youngest daughter, she has this thing at the moment where she's like, oh my God, I get to spend time with my sisters and play with my sisters and do like all the stuff that I've been missing out on for all the time, and then goes too far with it and it all gets a bit much. And like I said, I had my eldest helping me out with some cable management. Super thrilling, super exciting. Day one was very busy. It was a bit boring in some ways. There was a lot of playing, but for my eldest is very good. She likes to help out. So giving her like a job here and a job there to do, she loves stuff like that. Day 2 of the weekend, and it was a proper like, so what we're going to do? And it was literally anything that was like, oh, so what we're going to do? And it was just like, oh, let's go and do this. I was like, that costs money. Oh, let's go and do this. That's not suitable for everybody. What about this? That costs money. What about this? Yeah, it's not free either. Oh, we could go here. Oh, my word. That costs money. And I started getting to a point where I was like, maybe I'm just going to have to take them and do something and spend some money. And then I was like, really? Is this where we are? Is this the situation? Is this the world? What is going on here? We can only have a good time if it costs money. I was like, go and get some toys. You got a bajillion toys in the house. Go and get a toy and play. And it makes me think back to times of when I was little, when half the stuff that I do with the children nowadays didn't exist. Bowling, could go bowling. I've done that for years, but I don't remember ever playing mini golf. I know it existed, but I don't remember ever doing it at that age. I'm like, go and play. I felt like I was saying a dirty word. Go and play. Then you get to the back end, and I'm like, I feel really bad. I feel really bad that we've not done something. I should have made more of an effort. But ultimately, that phrase, I should have made more of an effort, is I should have spent more money. I should have paid for us to do something. I watched something this evening, and I'm so embarrassed that I can't tell you what it is. I'm too embarrassed to tell you what it was. because of the realization. It may or may not have been a children's television program. I'll leave it at that. But it was the whole, like, screen time versus playtime. And it was very much I'm sitting there feeling bad that we didn't go out and we didn't spend any money, and we didn't go to a place that costs money to do something. And then there's, like, my youngest daughter's watching a program that's telling you to, turn your screens off, put your screens down, and get out there and do stuff. And I'm like, yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I don't know how I feel. I feel, there are times that I always feel like I'm, letting somebody down. I think that's part of your job as a parent, to feel like you're letting somebody down. It seems like a weird job. But I do think I'm going to have to look at possible things for the future that don't cost anything. Because let's not forget, there's a cost of living crisis. Finally for the week, if anybody tuned in last week, they might have heard me, what's that word? Ranting? No, surely not. You might have heard me ranting about weight loss. I had a particularly difficult week in the sense that I'd worked really hard, and when I stepped on the scales, I'd put weight on. It wasn't a lot of weight. It was £1, but it was £1 that I really didn't want to have to put on when I'd worked really hard. The outcome of that was not great. The outcome of that was I went, F it. It was the first day, it was Monday. So admittedly, when I was recording last week, I went a bit like, well, screw it. What's the point? What the hell is the point? What's the point to anything? Let's just have a, I don't know, sweetie. As the week went on, that kind of petered out. I will admit, it was just the Monday, really. I carried on doing the things that I do, the work that I do, the working out, the running. There was a lot of running. There was a lot of treadmill time, whether it was at the gym or at home. Just absolutely getting it done, putting the work in, so on and so forth. So, today is Monday, and as we know, Monday is weigh day. I was walking the dog. Me and Leanne are walking home. I was like, so what do we reckon? Reckon I'll have put on more weight this week? I was like, do you know something? If I have put on more weight this week, I'm going to throw the scales at the wall, and I'm going to put the treadmill in the bin, and then I'm going to get fat. I was like, because honestly, I can't do it. And I was like, if I've put in the work I've put in, and I've either not lost any weight or whatever, if I've put weight on, then there is literally no hope for me. So that was that. I got home, I mentally prepared myself for what was to come. I went upstairs, I derobed and went into the bathroom. I put the scales down. I went, right, let's just do this. And I stepped on the scales, and I had lost just short of £4. Now then, here's some stats for you, because I found this very interesting, and you may or may not find it also interesting. Losing nearly £4 means that I now weigh the lowest I have weighed this year. I have been recording my weight week in, week out for the last few years, certainly the last couple, and I still have last year's. So I had a look at last year's, and I went, that's interesting, because at the end of last year was the lowest I weighed last year. So if you put the two together, I am currently the lowest weight I've been in the last 2 years. Some people might say, great, that's fantastic, well done, you've done well there. Some people, me, might say, yes, but I'm still 2 stone of what I've been playfully referring to as my fighting weight. My fighting weight is the lowest weight I got down to, comfortably got down to, with exercise and clean living. Clean eating, should I say. So I'm still 2 stone off that. So on one hand, yes, it's an achievement. On the other, still a long way to go. But, big thumbs up. I'll try not to break my arm while I'm patting myself on the back there. That's the week. Now, here's the where things get tricky. I said to you earlier, I've got nothing in the entertainment-wise realm, whatever. All the TV shows I'm watching are old. I'm watching My Name is Earl, and I'm on to series 2 of that. It's great for being on the treadmill. I'm watching How I Met Your Mother. I'm on series 5. I think I'm at the back end of series 5 now. I'd started that Tekken cartoon. Haven't gone back to it. That's it, TV-wise. Film-wise, I think I've watched 3 films this week. 2 of them are not new. And one of them is a DC animated movie, so I can't imagine anybody actually cares about it. I had my first home viewing of Top Gun Maverick. The idea was to get everything plugged in and ready so that there could be a home viewing of Top Gun Maverick. Didn't disappoint, I'm not going to lie. It did not disappoint. It sounded great, looked great, enjoyable time. Nothing new there, though. Pretty sure I've reviewed this film before. Me and the children sat and watched the Lorax. What I mean by that is the children watched the Lorax and I struggled to keep my eyes open. I can't imagine there's anything there that you really want to hear about. Games-wise, VR, no. Just don't even ask. It's a touchy subject. Console-wise, no. There was a point this week where I said the phrase, do you know something? I can't even tell you the last time I played a game. I was lying, but I was trying to make a point. And the point was that at that point in time, the time I'd played a game before that was 4 days ago. Part of this whole exercising X number of times a day in whichever form, part of the whole, out running, walking the dog twice a day, going to the gym, working out, going on the treadmill in an evening, other evening commitments, spending time with the people I live with, that kind of stuff doesn't leave a lot of time. I've been doing a couple of activities over the last week, and ultimately I'm like, I'm gonna sit down and play some computer games. And then I look at the time, it's like, it's time to go to bed. I've been struggling to put games on at the moment. I'm in a bit of a game funk. See previous podcasts where I've talked about having the perfect game to play, and then me talking about those times when I've either played and finished or just not got anything on the horizon, and the struggles that I've had with computer games. I've also been struggling with reading. I've got 2 books that I'm reading at the moment, and I'm really struggling to pick them up and read them. I seem to be in some kind of strange funk, and that funk is seeming to bleed into some things, but not others. I've had those evenings where I'm like, I'm definitely going to do X. Yet, I'm just going to quickly watch part of this episode. Like, I'm going to watch an episode of My Name is Earl. I've got half an episode left. I'm just going to watch that. And then 4 episodes later, it's time to go to bed. We all know that one. We all know how that works. But I also think it's masking something else that's going on. And the other thing that's going on is this weird funk. As I've said before, as a gamer, every single person will know that plays computer games, that's into games, every single person will know what it's like to get the funk. You don't want to play games today. You don't want to play games this week. right now, it's not gaming time. You know, that funk. And that has hit me. I do feel like it's hit me hard in some ways. Honestly, I'll hold my hands up. I played computer games in the middle of the day today, purely because I got up in a super bad mood and wondered if it was because I wasn't getting an aspect of downtime. So I had to take some time out of the day for me and everyone around me. I think it worked, which is, you know, a good thing. Sorry if you are here for the entertainment stuff. Sorry if you're here for, you know, you're wondering if I'm going to do a review of the new Saints Row. Apparently it's not great, so there. But there we go. That is this week's podcast. I will catch you next time. So there we go. What do you think to that? Apologies to anybody that was here for the entertainment stuff. Like I said at the start, it was a little bit light this week, as in non-existent. Sorry. Before you go, just click that subscribe button. It's there on the page somewhere. Like, share, comment, drop reviews. What else can you do? Gift it to a friend. Give it to a friend and say, hey, I listened to this podcast and it's great. You can also check out our website, thecookiecast.com. Over there we've got social media links and an email button so you can get in touch with us. That's it for this one. Until next time, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then.